7 years more commercial property can be converted now to residential.
Yes, so you're going to be able to convert your commercial buildings, such as shops and retail, professional offices, things like that, that were not in the mix before.
Learn the new criterion for prior approvals.
Is that exciting? Yes, actually, it is.
Seize the opportunity now. OMG, Linda! It's happened! At last! Now! It's here! The new permitted development, or should I call it the prior approval rights for commercial to residential, have landed. I know you're still in your spaceship, but they're here. They're with us now. I'm excited. Tell me more, Linda. Is it I can convert all these Debenham stores? Can I just go out and do it? Stop being a pessimist, Linda.
Yeah, I know. I'm the planning grumpy old git. What can I say? Yes, I am in my spaceship.
You are the star of the show. Our audience love the fact that we give a dummy's guide or an idiot's guide to planning. And they're waiting, they're staying tuned. Linda,
yeah, I'm not quite sure about being called a dummy or an idiot. You know what? No, but hey, that's fine. What we try and do here is we try and drill this down into something, you know, I go into planning geek speak sometimes, but we try and remove that, and we try and say to you, look, this is what is happening. Yes, I am coming to you from one of for those Trekkies out there, I think it's the Discovery or I don't know, anyhow. But yes, I'm in a spaceship because I'm leaving now. I'm going finding another world where planning does not exist. Anyhow, but that would be no good because it's what I do. So this is if you remember, we did a video on this about the consultation document. Everybody was getting excited about, yep. Everybody got excited about, ended at the end of January. It was the new classE. Now, if you need me to go through what is in the new classE, I can do that very quickly. It's the retail, A1 retail, professional offices. It's A3 food and drink, restaurants and cafes. It's class B1 business, includes all the offices, D1A, D1B and D2E, which is non-residential institutions, medical and health services, creche, indoor sports places, swimming pools, skating rinks, things like that. They are now all, I'm sorry, it's very boring, but they are now all in class E, the new class E, the new commercial and service business class. Now, what the government have announced now is that class E conversions to class C3 residential. Please be aware it's only class C3. You can't go straight to HMO, entirely different. So class C3, dwellings or flats. This is the new class A that was set down in the statutory instrument that was laid before Parliament on the 31st of March, yesterday. So this is hot off the press. And look, I know it's the 1st of April, but this is not an April Fool's joke. Yes, you will be able to convert retail shops and offices into residential under this new class MA. And it will be...
I read what Robert wrote, Mr. Robert Jenrick MP, and he said this is all about businesses being able to adapt and thrive post-COVID. So I'm excited. This means opportunity to me, a developer. Are you excited, Linda?
No, I'm too old to be excited. But it is a massive opportunity for some property developers. But there is an element that it's going to have to be handled very carefully. And I don't want people running away and going, oh, it's permitted development, I can do it. You can't. You're going to have to submit a prior approval application. And as with all of these things, the prior approval applications that we will be using up until the 31st of July for office to residential conversion and class M to retail to residential, some retail to residential, they're quite lax in what you're required. The fees are quite low. These new regulations have a lot more stringent criteria that you have to comply with. So some of these things are not going to be for the faint-hearted. But if you can put ticks in all of these boxes and you get a building that will comply, you know, it's going to be a marginally easier route through planning.
So what we're going to do is help our audience understand, one, what the rules are that they need to put the ticks in the boxes. Two, what the opportunities are here. Three, what is going to remain in place after we've launched the new permitted development right, known as a class MA for future reference. We'll discuss fees. We will also discuss how free ports might affect you. So stay tuned, smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, hit the share button for your mates, and don't forget to hit the bell icon, because this is going to be a top level strategic review. But in future videos, we're going to share with you the detail behind all of those. Be the first to hear right here. Linda, tell me, in the old world, we used to have to put together a permitted development or a prior approval application to tick a box on transport, contamination, flooding, neighbours' noise from commercial premises. More recently, they launched the must have adequate natural light, must have adequate space standards. And we couldn't do it in a conservation area. So is it pretty much the same as before, or are they making it easier for us?
Some bits are made slightly easier, other bits aren't. So let's go through this. This was laid before Parliament yesterday, 31st of March. It does not come into effect until the 21st of April. Now, does that mean, oh, right, fine, we've got a retail shop, we'll submit a prior approval application on the 22nd of April and we'll get on with it? No, no, no. It comes into effect on the 21st of April so that you can start getting your ducks in a row, to be honest. You cannot submit an application until the 1st of August this year, 2021. So you can submit an application under the new class MA to convert class E to residential. Right. As before, as with
good news.
It is. As with all of the other ones, once you get your prior approval from the local planning authority, you've got 3 years in which to complete the development. If you don't complete within the 3 years, then it expires and you have to reapply. Although within 3 years' time, we may end up with a whole load of different permitted development rights. Now, these are two very important facts. The building must have been in commercial, business and service, class E use, for 2 years before. So if you've had something that's had a slightly different use, it must have been in use for 2 years continuously in order to benefit from this right. And the other important fact is it must be unused commercial buildings before they can be converted to residential. They must have been vacant for 3 months prior to the submission of the application. For example, if you've got a building that's been in use for more than 2 years for commercial and business purposes, that's absolutely fine. If you want to submit an application on the 1st of August, if you want to be the first out of the traps and you want to go, 1st of August, it must have been vacant. So you must have had this building vacant for at least May, June and July. So I'm not saying that you should kick tenants out now, but it must have been vacant at least 3 months before, on the run up to your submission of the application. And the other very important fact is, which is a massive change from the consultation document. The consultation document put no size limit on the buildings that could be considered for this right. Now, I had people going, oh, I could convert to Debenhams. Well, no, because they've now put a size limit on this, because there were lots of objections to this, a size limit on this of 1,500 square meters. So that's 1,500 square meters is your maximum size of building that can be used. So
and Devon's is about 14,000 square meters. So
exactly.
That's not even touching the sides of the building, barely, is it?
So it's, you know, it's smaller buildings. That's not a small building by any means, but it refers now to smaller buildings. And you have to go through the prior approval procedure, which a lot of property developers and a lot of my clients know about now. It's you submit an application, but there's a lot more requirements in there that you have to form part of the application to start with. This right will apply in conservation areas, but they have actually added into this, it will apply in conservation areas, but not in the usual protected areas, national parks, areas of outstanding beauty, and there's also, you know, military hazard areas and all of this kind of stuff. So it's the usual thing that we've been used to with the previous prior approvals. If you are going to be converting a building in a conservation area, they've added an additional twist in that any alterations at the ground floor, and Andrew and I were talking about this, and I said, well, it's the use, but then Andrew quite rightly said, well, if you're going to be converting a ground floor of a shop, it's going to need a different frontage. So you're going to have to put a front door and a domestic window in. So potentially it could seriously change the character and appearance of the conservation area. So that's that little twist that's been added in there. Whereas before, if you were just doing a conversion and not changing any external elevations in a conservation area, you could just go ahead and do it. So they've actually specified this now in this class MA.
And I think the important thing to take note here is you can do what you want on the uppers. They're just referring to the ground floor, and they specifically state the ground floor.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, Andrew. I expect that as with all of the other prior approvals, if you are, it will not include, it doesn't, I've not seen it in the wording, but quite frankly, came out yesterday. I've only had this morning to look at it. So we will scour it again and see if anything else comes out. But as with anything else, if it is in a conservation area, if you are going to be significantly changing the external appearance of the building, the council might grant you prior approval for the change of use, but they will then say, we need a further application to consider the external changes. And that, so there's a condition on your prior approval, and that may be what happens again.
So, Linda, one of the things that we as developers all love doing is taking a defunct office. Now, let's be frank, this is, or let's be Andrew and Linda, actually. Sorry, guys. We've got loads of office buildings now which are surplus to requirements in this post-COVID world. Now, because
I'm going to be even more as the time goes on, I would imagine, as companies start to say, look, we'll significantly reduce, we'll have shift patterns, we'll have employees only coming in 1 or 2 days a week. You know, everyone will have laptop, broadband, and everyone will be working as if we weren't already doing that. I mean, I'm in my spare room. Oops, no, on my spaceship. I'm in my spare room with my laptop and my mobile phone, and I've been doing this for the last 12 months. So from that point of view, yes, office, the way in which we work is probably going to significantly change.
Which therefore comes back to making this planning system easy for small businesses to use, easy for us to adapt buildings to create the new economy going forwards. Now, there's something that you said, and I didn't quite like what I heard, because a lot of these office buildings, we could create 200 flats in them before, and this isn't micro studios. This is space standard 37 square meter for a one person with a shower flat. We've now only got 1,500 square meters, Linda.
Yeah.
That's not a lot. And the other thing is, what I'm really excited about is we've got rid of the Article 4s, renting all of the office to Resi, isn't that right?
No, not yet. Not yet.
What do you mean
Not yet? Well, the article, what's happened is, and I don't really want to talk about class O because it starts to get confused with this new class MA, but just to let people know, any councils that have put an Article 4 direction in place to prevent the change of use of offices, conversion offices to residential conversions under class O, they were going to expire on the 31st of July this year. They're now going to be extended to next year. So they've got an extra 12 months. So that means that if you were thinking, right, on the 1st of August, I'm going to, well, you can't because they expire. But if you were thinking there might be a policy vacuum and that would disappear, local central government have looked at local authority policies and said, do you know what, we'll keep those in place. So that is a bit of a more preventative issue that's going to stop you from doing that, and the Article 4 directions will remain in place.
Linda, that's not sounding.
I know, but you know me, I just tell you the truth. And if listening to these videos, you hear the truth, because trust me, there are people out there who will spin you a line. If you get the truth, you hear this, it will stop you from standing at that auction, waving your paddle about, buying a building that you actually find you can't do anything with. Now, the other thing that I've not found in this, in a lot of the previous prior approval permitted development, the additional stories and demolishing and rebuilding, there are no date stamps on this. A lot of the buildings had to be built from 1948 onwards. There is no time restriction on these. So if you're looking at buildings within conservation areas, there is the possibility that you can convert, because we're not talking about demolition, because we're not talking about massive structures on top. There is a possibility that you can convert these much older buildings. So again, that's something that is not included in this, which is in the other prior approval procedure application. So that's just something to be aware of.
Absolutely. And here's a real opportunity that I've spotted. It effectively rebases to the 1st of September as a minimum, if not 2 years from the date of your application, the use of the building. So previously you had to have had that building in, say, an office or a shop back in 2013. Well, now they're saying we can wind the clock forward. So we've captured a whole new range of buildings that we can convert. And the more modern buildings tend to be cheaper, easier and faster to convert.
Yeah, they're only saying that the building has to have been in a class E type of use for the last 2 years, or the 2 years prior to you submitting the application on the 1st of August. Now, the one thing, well, there are a number of things. Let's go through what the council can consider these applications on. And if anybody has dealt with either class M or class O conversions, office conversions previously, there will be no real surprises here. So we've got the council can consider transport impacts, land contamination, flood risk, any noise pollution from outside which might affect the residents. As I've said earlier,
it is restricted though to commercial neighbours. It's not restricted to the bus going by, because that's
no
normal environmental noise. Just to clarify for everybody.
That's I mean, I can start reading from the statutory instrument if you want.
Sorry,
you really don't want me to start doing that. Now, as I've said before, if it's in a conservation, you can do this in conservation areas as before, not a listed building, but conservation areas. If you are going to be changing the use of the ground floor, any impact that any work's done on that is going to have on the character of the conservation area. If the council consider that to be a problem, they can refuse on that ground. There's also, this is we know about this now because it came in last year, adequate levels of natural light in all habitable rooms. And And the requirements for what you need to submit with these applications now is much more specific. You have to put layout plans in, you have to say what the use of each room is, and you have to put where the windows are. So that's something that has been added on. There's also the impact on occupiers. If it is in an industrial or heavy industrial area or waste management area, that kind of thing, not terribly pleasant if you're going to be the occupiers, but they're looking at the impact on that. So again, local planning authorities can refuse on that ground. And there is now in this new class MA, there is a protection for nurseries or health centres, and any, if you're wanting to convert, any impact that might have on the provision of services of those uses. So those are the criteria on which the council can look at these and determine these, and they can, if they find that any of these issues are unacceptable, they can refuse them. So, you know, it's not exactly a permitted development that you can just sort of waltz off and do. It's not like class G where you can just convert the upper floors to flats. You have to submit a prior approval, and it's much more, I was going to say onerous, but it's much more specific, that you have to tick all of the boxes, as you were saying earlier.
It's become a planning light type system. And I'm just disappointed by what you say when you've just tucked another little nugget in there about this protection of the loss of health centres and nurseries.
Yeah.
For the last 3-4 months, I've been going around land banking, nurseries, dentists, doctors, and I was going to evict them all and convert them. Are you telling me I can't do that?
Right. It doesn't say, right, I'll give you an example that might help people, hopefully. It does not say you can't do it. It says, you know, obviously they're wanting to protect. I think central government have recognised in the last one of the last videos, there was a protection for local convenience and goods stores that were afforded a level of protection, because I think central government with this pandemic have realised what is important in life, and one of that is to be able to get provisions, toilet rolls, of course, but to be able to go to, you know, to be able to get a bottle of milk, to be able to get bread, to be able to, you know, sustain life. And
Prosecco.
Well, yeah, you and me, but with champagne, darling, please, not Prosecco. No,
no, just for my cornflakes.
Excellent. I'm coming to your house for breakfast. It's like a protection. So it doesn't mean you can't do it. So for example, if you've got a redundant health centre building, because what has happened is a volume developer has built 1,500 houses. He's found within that site, there's been a new site built in that neighbourhood to provide a much bigger, much better purpose-built health centre. So if that is the case, then the impact and the provision on services will not be a problem, because it's already been replaced. So if you then want to convert that into flats, there would be no objection, or there should be no objection from the council. So it's a protection rather than a no, you can't. It's about provision of services and ongoing care for the community, and you know, children's nurseries, and that's another big thing that's been found to be important in the pandemic.
Well, we've got 2 real things left for this video for the audience. And if you haven't already and you want to know the detail, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon to be the first to notified, and also hit the share button to tell your friends. Drop us a comment, tell us if you think this is good news or bad news, and give Linda a thumbs up if you think she's doing this in a way that you can understand it clearly and easily. Now, the 2 things left. The first one, fees, Linda. It was proposed that this might be a fee per dwelling. So come on, give me the bad news. Give me the bad news. What's the fees?
Well,
is it 90
there isn't.
still?
No, the fact is there isn't any news. And this kind of always happens when a new regs are brought out, statutory instrument is brought out. The fees is almost an afterthought, but I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's always already been dealt with, but it will mean a change to the fees regulations. So it's not been done yet. There's no mention of that in the statutory instrument, what you wouldn't expect there to be, but there will probably be an announcement in the next few weeks, I would imagine, as to what the fees for this new class MA will be. Now, on the consultation document, the indication was that the fee was going to be £96 per dwelling created. So if you've got a building where you create 10 flats, it's going to be £960. If you submit that by the planning portal have an administrative handling fee, 20 odd quid usually. So there will be a handling fee if you submit this via planning portal. So it's £96 per dwelling was in the consultation. We don't know yet because there's been no release of what the fee will be for this new class MA. So that's the fees issue. We just don't know at the moment, but we'll drop a video once we find that out.
Excellent. Well, that brings into question the SIL and Section 106 or the proposed new infrastructure levy. Will that be charged? Do we know the answer to that one yet?
Don't, do you? No. Right, before we go on to that, let me just remind people that all prior approval applications, this came out a while ago, all prior approval applications, there's an overarching requirement that all new dwellings created under the prior approval system have to comply with the national space standards. The minimum starts at 37 square meters for a one-person flat or house. If you have a shower room, it goes up to 39 square meters if you've got a full bathroom, and then it goes up incrementally. So the national space standards revised in 2016. So you're going to have to comply with that no matter what. Now, let's go on to community infrastructure levy and Section 106 agreements. Prior approval applications, none of them have ever had to provide contributions under Section 106 agreement. They can be liable for community infrastructure levy where that council has an infrastructure levy requirement in place. A lot of councils don't because it's not mandatory. So if you're converting a building, you might find that you need community infrastructure levy payments. You would need to check that beforehand, and every council will have different requirements. Some councils say, do you know what, if it's a change of use, if it's conversion and the footprint already exists, they don't want a community infrastructure levy payment. Other councils do. So and other councils have minimum sizes. So just be careful and make sure you check that. However, with the white paper, the draft white paper on planning for the future that came out last year, there was a proposal in there, and this has been universally torn to shreds, to be perfectly honest. So the central government have put the brakes on. It was going to come out last autumn. Central government have put the brakes on. They're reconsidering everything, and it's probably likely to come out the end of this year. In that white paper, the proposal is to combine, again, this is like deja vu, they intended this several years ago, is to combine community infrastructure levy and Section 106 agreements. If that is the case, I suspect all prior approval applications will have to provide Section 106 contributions and community infrastructure levy as it is combined. It's going to take a while for councils to sort that out. I mean, it's going to take a long time, to be perfectly honest. So I wouldn't panic and think, oh my God, we need to get our applications in on the 1st of August, because this is going to churn through and take a long, long time for that to happen. Okay. So from that point of view, from contributions and payments, at the moment, this has not been mentioned for the new class MA.
Well, I think that's useful to know that at least there's some good news there. Now, I'm just conscious of the time today, Linda, and
Oh, right, I need to shut up.
we've run out of the window of time we had. So for those who want to know about free ports, what we'll be doing is a separate video on the commercial opportunities and planning opportunities with free ports. And we'll also do a separate video for you on the classE and the detail of the changes and that closing window of opportunity between now and the 31st of August 2020 for you to seize those opportunities. So if I dare to summarize a little bit today's session,
Go on.
What we've done is we've discovered that there's been a rebasing, bringing more buildings into the permitted development rights, moving that date forward from 2013 to as of the 1st of September 2020, but that it can actually be extended on a rolling sort of basis based on the 2 years prior use falling within a classE use. We've also got the fact that the buildings must be unused commercial before we can do this. So it's not very good to say, I'm going to buy that and evict the tenant just so that I can do this conversion. Wouldn't recommend that as a good one, especially in a post-COVID environment. If you've got a tenant, keep them. Provided that they're paying the bills, keep them. The downside that I've just learned today on the office conversions is 1,500 square meters is our limit. The upside is if we've got retail, whereas before we could do a class G conversion on the uppers of a shop and a class M to the rear, under the new permitted development, we can do 1,500 square meters of a shop, making larger shops possible, provided we meet space standards and provided we bring natural light in. The old PD and prior application system applies until the 31st of July, sorry. So we need to keep within that framework and use that. And new buildings that were not previously eligible, doctor surgeries, dentists, gyms, now are eligible for conversion. So it's a mixed bag of news that you've brought us today, Linda. Hopefully we've made it easy for our audience to understand. But if there's a point that you've got, drop a question below and we'll get back to you on that, answering that in detail. Linda, any parting words of wisdom from our gamekeeper turned poacher?
None at all. If you want to discuss any of these things, by all means, contact me, drop us an email at admin@planitwright.co.uk. My admin team will sort you out with a telephone consultation. It is a paid for telephone consultation, I'm afraid, because otherwise I'd just spend the rest of my life on the phone and not be able to pay my bills and be living in the dog kennel. So yeah, you know where I am. If you need any help with this, I hope this has helped today. We have tried to unravel some of the knots in the planning system, and we will keep on doing that for you. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Linda, for joining us again. Linda Wright of planitwright, a phenomenal planning consultant with the experience of being on the other side of the fence as a town planner and then working in the commercial field for a good couple of decades. I know you don't look old enough, Linda, but come on, you do
unfortunately I do.
Yes. So guys, thank you for your time today. We look forward to catching up with you soon. Don't forget, hit that subscribe, like and share buttons for us.